This is the truth. What I'm going to give you is what happened in Benghazi. I gave this to you as this is what my gut said was going on. I gave it to you, I think, on September, 14th. I said, look, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. The Business Insider just broke a story a few minutes ago, and I believe this is absolutely the truth. How the U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens may have been linked to jihadist rebels in Syria. This case, to me, got stronger the other day when we found out, according to the New York Times and the Washington Post, that American arms are ending up with the Islamists in Syria. Now, how did that happen? Well, you have to go back to the New York Times back in June, where the New York Times said that we selected the Muslim Brotherhood as the one to pick the rebels that will help. We know that the Muslim Brotherhood is not largely secular. They are going for a caliphate. In their own words, they're going for a caliphate. Mm-hmm. So that was the information I brought you a couple of days ago that the New York Times couldn't figure out, but it was in their own paper. All they have to do is assemble it. Now, this comes from the Business Insider. The details of the September 11th attack that killed 4 Americans at the U.S. consulate in Benghazi are still murky, and there's certainly more to be known. Former CIA officer Claire Lopez argues that the key issue is the relationship of the U.S. government, Ambassador Christopher Stevens, and the U.S. diplomatic mission in Libya with Al-Qaeda. The president is out on the stump speech right now saying that he's really decimated Al-Qaeda. But if you go back to when we went into Libya, again, the New York Times was reporting that we may be arming the wrong people. We may actually be arming Al-Qaeda. Do you remember that happening during the Arab Spring? Mm-hmm. They said we were arming Al-Qaeda. The White House denied it. My speculation was, right after the September 11th attacks, that not only was this an attack by rebels, this wasn't due to a video, this was due to the fact that Christopher Stevens was the gun runner. He was the guy brokering the deals with Al-Qaeda-related affiliates. That was my speculation. Listen to this new story. That relationship, Lopez argues, could be connected to the rise of the Islamic brigades in Syria, who recently created a front to liberate Syria, to wage jihad against the Syrian regime and turn the country into the Islamic State. So far, we know all of these things are true. This has been what I've just read to you. These things have already been verified by the New York Times, been verified by the Washington Post, all and the Business Insider is as well. Very friendly sources to the White House. That potential connection starts with who Ambassador Stevens worked with during the Libyan Revolution and ends with who he hosted the night of his death. Now, the piece, I didn't have this piece. I thought he was out looking for or meeting with, and they brought him to the safe house in Benghazi. I didn't realize that he hosted a guest that night. That's some pretty critical information. I kept asking, why was he there? Well, he was there hosting somebody, and this speaks volumes. Who was it? We do know.
We do know?
We do know. Listen to the whole story first, and then I'll tell you who it was. In March 2011, Stevens became the official U.S. liaison to the Al-Qaeda-linked Libyan opposition and began coordinating U.S. assistance to the rebels. Again, verifies what my gut said. He was the official liaison to the Libyan opposition group, which is Al-Qaeda-linked. Top military commander is Beck-erwoods.
I love Beck-erwoods.
You like him?
The only one I like better is... I
like him.
He's the only one I like better.
Yeah, you mean Mohammed?
Yes.
Yes, I like him. Okay, so anyway, Beck-erwoods was the leader of the pro-Al-Qaeda Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, LIFG, Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, Beck-erwoods. After Gaddafi fell, this fighting group disbanded. Some of the fighters joined another group called the Soldiers of Sharia, That doesn't sound like they're against a caliphate. They reportedly participated in the attack that took Stevens' life. So he was helping them. He's the one who gave them power. And then when they won against Gaddafi, they went even further insane. And then they went and helped kill him in the end. You have the connections? You following this so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In November 2011, the Telegraph reported, London Telegraph, that Belhaj, acting at the head of the Tripoli Military Council, met with the Free Syrian Army. And he met in Turkey in the effort by the new Libyan government to provide money and weapons to the growing insurgency in Syria. So you now have the guy that Stevens was brokering the deals with Al-Qaeda. He's now going over to Turkey and working with the officials and the ambassadors of Turkey to be able to get weapons into the bad guys in Syria. Last month, the Times have reported that the Libyan ship carrying the largest consignment of weapons for Syria had docked in Turkey. The shipment reportedly weighed 400 tons and included SA-7 surface-to-air anti-aircraft missiles, rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs. The heavy weapons are most likely from Muammar Gaddafi's stock of about 20,000 heat-seeking missiles that are missing. The Libyan army or the Libyan leader obtained them from the former Eastern Bloc. Bulk of what was in here were SA-7s. Reuters reports that the Syrian rebels now have been using those heavy weapons to shoot down the helicopters and the fighter jets. The ship's captain that brought all these arms in from Libya, the ship's captain was from Benghazi, and he was the head of an organization called the Libyan National Council for Relief and Support. This was established by the new Libyan government, who we are working with. That means that the Ambassador Stevens, had only one person, Belhaj, between him and the people who are bringing the weapons into Syria. Furthermore, the best fighters in the Syrian opposition, where did they come from? Last week, the Telegraph reported that FSA commander called the Libyans and said, we don't want these Libyans. We don't want all these extremists here. So here's what we know. Libya has been sending seasoned Islamic fighters, heavy weapons, and money to Syria in support of the Islamic Jihad there. The uncertain part is where Stevens and the U.S. government fits into this. If the new Libyan government was sending jihadists and 400 tons of lethal cargo to Syria through a port in our allies' port of Turkey, and a deal brokered by Stevens' primary Libyan contact during the Libyan revolution, then the governments of Turkey and the U.S. surely knew about it. You follow this? The guy we worked with is the guy doing these deals. Our ally Turkey knows all about it. Our ally, the prime minister, who's the best friend of Barack Obama, who's the one, he was the first one to call. He didn't call, not Tony Blair, he didn't call Gordon Brown. He didn't call anybody. The first guy he called was?
Turkey's leader.
Turkey's leader. He's the closest to Turkey's leader. Turkey is taking the arms from Libya and shipping them into Syria. Reuters also reports that satellite photos exposed a CIA post in Benghazi located 1.2 miles from the consulate. It was used as a base, among other things, for collecting information on the proliferation of weaponry looted from the Libyan government, including surface-to-air missiles, and that its security features were more advanced than those at the rented villa where Stevens died. We also know that a dozen CIA operatives and contractors left the Benghazi base after it was exposed. Could the two CIA groups be connected as a start and end points to help funnel heavy weapons to the Syrian opposition? The answer is yes. We know that the CIA has been funneling weapons to the rebels in southern Turkey. CNN reports that FSA members are cutting their own deals to get weapons from well-armed extremists. So it raises questions on who the CIA is arming. We also know that U.S. weapons are now ending up in the hands of hardline Islamists in Syria. It turns out that many of the jihadists are the same ones, the same people that Stevens helped arm to topple Muammar Gaddafi. Now here we go. Who is he having dinner with? On September 11th.
Not Ahmed. Is it?
Now you've wrecked
I'm
it.
sorry.
Now you've wrecked it.
I apologize.
Now you've wrecked it.
Shoot. I never would have guessed it could be him.
September 11th. September 11th, he was having a meeting with the Turkish ambassador, the guy who's involved in the gun runnings. He's having dinner, and he leaves from dinner. 40 minutes later, the consulate is surrounded, and he dies. Eerie coincidence? I think not. This is the truth of what happened in Benghazi.